reportedly, rumored, allegedly. Get very familiar with those words because for the next few months, you are going to be hearing a lot of them. That's right. The Detroit Lions reportedly did something that I would expect every team in the National Football League to do outside of the Cleveland Browns. So you can see it from the banner below. And that's reportedly call on the availability of defensive end unicorn Myles Garrett. This is coming from Detroit Lions on SI. Sources with knowledge of the situation expressed that the Lions are among the teams to reach out to Cleveland regarding Garrett, but the Browns have not called any of the teams back, which could be why Brad Holmes said probably not yesterday in his press conference. Cleveland head coach Kevin Stefanski reiterated, this was today, Wednesday at the Combine, that he anticipates having Garrett in uniform during his media appearance at the Combine. Here's what he said. I think the world of Myles. I understand the business of football, and I understand these things happen from time to time, Stefanski said. But I expect Myles on our team this year, next year, the year after that, and so on. He's part of the present. He's part of the future. And yesterday, as a matter of fact, the general manager, Andrew Berry, for the Cleveland Browns got up there and said that he understands that time to time players make trade requests. And that while he appreciates Myles, he respects Myles, he does not intend to trade him. I think that could be, hey, we need 3 first-round picks and not 2. Now, this is very sticky for Myles Garrett, but let's go to the Detroit Lions. Of course, here's why I have some level of excitement, because we've heard this before, that Brad tried to get, according to sources, Danielle Hunter. But Danielle Hunter shot down the trade. He wanted to finish out the year in Minnesota. That Brad Holmes tried to, or at least called, about the availability of Myles Garrett. And while I do appreciate that, don't get me wrong, I find it, I'm not impressed by that. You understand what I'm saying? Of course you're going to call on the availability of a unicorn that is Myles Garrett. That would be the same way if Hutch became available. Every team, all 31 teams are going to call whether they can make it work or not. They're going to call and find out information. That's cool. That is a small percentage. I guess that gets the ball rolling. So I respect that. But what I'm more alluding to is the fact that when you start the dialogue and you hear what you hear, let me put it in the comment section. I want you to put it to the comments. What would we're not in charge of any football teams. We're not in charge with the finances and all. And believe it or not, Brad Holmes doesn't do all that. He's not just one in a world where one man is in charge of. He has a team together that knows about the finances, the cap space. All he knows what he knows, but he ain't the only one doing it, right? So if you were the general manager for the Detroit Lions, or if you could bring in Myles Garrett, would you? What would you do? The Lions right now are sitting 8th in cap space. They got just under $60 million. They're going to get an additional 22 to 26 when the cap increases in a few weeks. That's what's going to happen. Myles Garrett, what picks would you give up? So for me, what I want to see, and I guess the question that I'm asking you, what would you call Brad Holmes giving 100% to acquire Myles Garrett? So I want you to put, if you don't mind typing, I'm not a typer, I'm a talker, obviously, right? But if you don't mind typing out something, what would you say is the breaking point for you? For me, it's 3 firsts. I'm not giving 3 firsts for Myles Garrett. I will give you 2, and we can talk about some things, but I'm not giving you 3. That's where I'm not going. So for me, what I would do is I would do something very similar to the Matthew Stafford trade. Maybe throw in, if the Rams were to give me a pick back, maybe I throw in a player as well. So for me, I would give you 2 firsts. I would give you the 3rd. I would give you Hendon Hooker. You give us Myles Garrett and a draft pick, probably 5th or 6th, somewhere. I would want a 5th round pick. Give me a 5th round pick, Myles Garrett. I give you 2 firsts, Hendon Hooker, and the 3rd round pick that we apparently can't give for compensatory. So maybe I don't give you a 3rd round pick until 2027. That's what I would do. I'll give you a 3rd round pick in 27 or our 3rd round pick, if we have one for 2026 or 2027, whichever one we have first, I will give you that. I'll give you Hendon Hooker for your quarterback situation. I'll give you 2 firsts for Myles Garrett. You give us Myles Garrett and a 5th round pick. That's what I would do. I'm not worried about the money because he's not worried about the money. Myles Garrett is not worried about the money. We keep talking about, he wants to be extended. He has from his mouth, he's not worried about the money. Rich Eisen asked him directly, if they were to make you the highest paid person contract, does that matter? He said, it's not about the money. So money, Myles Garrett is under contract for 2 more seasons. He's getting paid. He's not thinking about that. He's thinking about winning championships, period. He made that very clear. So what is the breaking point for you? For me, it's three first round picks. That's the breaking point. It would have to be a lot of discussion for me to budge with that. I would be open to a conversation, but I would have to like what I heard in return. So that's where I'm at. So what I want from Brad is more than a phone call. I want, once they start talking concrete and numbers and draft capital and stuff like that, that there is not 99%, not 99.9, that he gives 100%. Well, hey, this doesn't work. I'm thinking about this. Can we make this work? What about this? That's what I want to see from Brad Holmes. So him calling is great. That's how you get the ball rolling. He would be an idiot, just like every other 31 teams in the National Football League, or all other 30, to not call, at least pick up the phone on Myles Garrett. Literally, everybody would be dumb. Call, see what they talking about. Maybe you get him for a steal, at least, right? So although I appreciate that, it shows me he has initiative. I want to know if he can follow through. How far is he willing to go to follow through? That's that. Now, when it comes to Myles Garrett, this thing gonna get nasty. You got Kevin Stefanski, his words, I'm not really tripping on those, but Andrew Berry, I want you to paint this situation. Think about this situation. This is why I don't think that Myles Garrett, I think the Cleveland Browns are making a mistake. They're making a mistake. And I think that the highest capital for Myles Garrett you're going to get is right now. The longer you wait, the more his capital is going to go down. I'm going to tell you why. Myles Garrett, if you watch how this thing has gone, Myles Garrett at the end of the season, it all started at the end of the season. He has a press conference. Somebody asked him a question. He wants to know, have a conversation with the upper management, how they're going to turn this team around. Well, obviously that conversation happened. He did not like what he heard. After that, Andrew Berry comes out and says, there's no amount of draft capital, paraphrasing, that we would part from Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett takes that, in my opinion, as disrespect. He then puts out a trade request a little while later, about a month ago from right now, requesting a trade. Kevin, and then Andrew Berry comes out. Well, before that, he requests a trade. He goes on the Radio Row, Myles Garrett, that is. After that, then Andrew Berry says that we're not trading Myles Garrett. So you see the pattern here. You're telling me that you're not going to trade me when I told you, I gave you an opportunity to show me how you're going to turn the Cleveland Browns into a winning organization. I did not like what I heard. I gave you the chance. You drafted me because you were the first overall pick, and we haven't done much since. A couple playoff wins or one playoff win, couple appearances, whatever it is. I essentially gave you first dibs. I told you I wanted to be here. I wanted you to show me what is the plan. If I'm going to give you my best years of football, I'm turning 30. Show me how we're going to win before I don't have anything left. They were unable to do that, and now Myles Garrett wants a trade. But now I'm thinking about the disrespect. The fact that Andrew Berry keeps going back and forth. He's not going to budge. Myles does not need the money. I don't think Myles takes another snap for the Cleveland Browns, because now, even though Myles Garrett signed a contract, and I understand he's he's legally bound to the Cleveland Browns. Okay. You say, quote, that you respect him and you appreciate him, but yet you're not going to trade him. You're not going to request it's crazy to me. It's crazy. So I think that the disrespect level is growing in Myles Garrett eyes. And that's why I think the trade capital will go down, because he's not going to play for the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are going to be between a rock and a hard place. And it's crazy how they did right by Zadarius, but they refused to do right by Myles. This is crazy. And I respect the Detroit Lions for doing what they consider right to Matthew Stafford. Not only did they honor his trade request, they let him choose where he wanted to go. The Carolina Panthers were interested. There were some other teams that were reportedly interested. So I respect the Detroit Lions for that. I don't think this is going to end well for the Cleveland Browns. And I think if you're going to, right now, you could literally get a king's ransom for Myles Garrett. The longer you go on, the more he holds out, the nastier this thing gets, the more likely they're trying to, I don't think they'll ever cast him aside. They're going to get something for him. I don't think it ever will go below 2 first, but you could get the most you're going to get right now in this current era. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, but I appreciate the fact that Brad tried to, he initiated a conversation, or at least tried to. The Cleveland Browns are literally ignoring people at this point. It's going to get nasty. I don't think Myles is going to make a spectacle, but right now we in disrespect territory. I've given you all I can. You haven't given me anything. I even gave you the chance to sit down with me. Tell me, why should I give you? And here's the thing. Well, you might be like, well, Derek, he signed a contract. He signed a contract back in 2020. I believe it was He signed the extension in 2020, 2021, somewhere around there. The Cleveland Browns had Baker Mayfield as their quarterback. They didn't trade for Deshaun Watson, lock up all that capital into him, lock up all that cap space and all that into him. And it was a whole different team back then. This is pre-Nick Chubb injury. There's the Cleveland Browns are a totally different organization than when he signed up for the contract, right? If you remember, when he signed his contract, this was probably right around the time I think COVID was just hitting, and the Pittsburgh Steelers were like 11-0 that year, and the Cleveland Browns upset them and all this other stuff. It was a different team. That was a different time. He's given them multiple opportunities. I actually appreciate this because it shows you he's not about the money, because he knows that if he was to hit free agency, Cleveland would probably throw him the bag to keep him. So I guarantee you, and this thing could get nasty, because think about this. Myles Garrett could be franchise tagged probably at the end of his contract. And the longer this thing goes on, the nastier it's going to get. I think his draft capital is going to decrease, and maybe the Detroit Lions can swing in. But I tell you what, thank you, Brad Holmes, for at least placing the phone call. I appreciate that. It shows initiative. But I don't want Brad Holmes to be like, he know, like, it's like, if you can't stand the heat, get out the kitchen. You making a phone call is cool. That's opening the door to the kitchen. Walk into the kitchen now. Get in there, get down, get dirty. How can you make this thing happen within reason and give it 100%? Not 99.9, 100%. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm cool with that, because I have a breaking point myself. But don't give it 50%. Don't give it 75%. I want offer, counter offer, counter offer, counter offer. That's what I want. I want you to exhaust every possible means to acquire Myles Garrett, because I want you guys to picture Aiden Hutchinson as Myles Garrett. If this was him, what would that be? What would that be like? Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. This channel was made possible by viewers, subscribers, and members just like you. It's because of your support I get to do what I do. You could be anywhere else on YouTube, but you choose to rock with me. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and each other. And as always, go Lions. I will say this was a morale boost, because after Brad's press conference, I was feeling a little down, like, yo, I don't know if this guy gets it. But now it's kind of, he's walking off, and they asked him something about Myles Garrett. He says, probably not. Probably because it was disappointment, because they hadn't picked up the phone. All I want from Brad, I want Brad to succeed. I just want to win. That's what I want. I want to win it all. 15-2, cool. I want to win everything. And it's his job to make that happen. All right? So I want you guys to understand me. I believe he's trying, but we also know he can be a little stubborn sometimes, right? So just do what you got to do, bro. Whatever it takes. Myles or not, do whatever you got to do to fix this D-line.